All right, so I thought I'd make a little video about some issues that I had, or that my client had today with her neck. So she had some kind of some pain in the back of her neck, and she was saying that she noticed it, a fair amount when she kind of tipped her head forward, and especially when she kind of was leaning her head backward like this. She felt, kind of some issues even down into her shoulders and down into her arms, like even getting a little bit of like some nerve, like tingles and stuff like that. So I was just going to kind of walk through and kind of share with you what we did to help kind of fix some of those problems. The other big clue that she gave me is that she said that it hurt the most when she kind of rolled over out of bed and she kind of had to do like this pushing motion out of bed. And that when she was trying to do this pushing motion, she felt some pretty significant, issues down the back of the neck as she was pushing. So my thought process was, well, in that pushing motion, you really shouldn't be feeling the back of the neck. So when you were lying on your stomach and you're pushing yourself back up, these muscles, yes, they do engage a little bit, but they shouldn't be the primary spot where you feel muscles contracting. So I told her that in that push position, she should really have felt more here, like from the chest, right? That's kind of like a bench press motion or a push-up, right? She was doing a push-up essentially out of bed. So because that was happening, we kind of went over and addressed some of these chest muscles. So with the chest muscles, these are big muscles, okay? They kind of look like my fingers. In other words, they are a broad fan-shaped muscle that's right here, your pecs, okay? So with your pecs, you have a lower pec, that's your thoracic fiber division. It goes right here, and the reason it's thoracic is because it attaches to these thoracic ribs, okay? So right through here. The next one is your sternal fibers. So right here, it attaches to your sternum, okay? So they kind of come straight across like this. The last set of fibers is right here, just under your collarbone. Those are called your clavicular fibers, right? Because they kind of come up in an orientation where they attach to that. So the interesting thing with those three fibers is that they each have kind of a primary direction where they are, I guess, kind of highlighted in an action of pushing. So when you push kind of straight forward like this, like in a typical bench press, like a flat bench press or a flat dumbbell press, or in a flat push-up when your feet are on the floor, that should primarily kind of hit this middle section, right across the center. Now, if you were going to go into more of like a decline press, so you know how you have the bench press, where that goes backwards like this and your hands kind of end up pushing more like this angle, or if you were to have your hands on a bench and your feet on the floor, this would also be a decline pressing motion, okay? And when you push your hands kind of down and in like this kind of hits that lower area just underneath the pec, okay? And then the third one is more of an incline angle. So you've seen like at the gym, the incline bench, and you see people doing the barbell presses or kind of the incline, dumbbell chest presses this way. That one kind of hits or should be hitting this upper clavicular area. So there's reasons why there's those three different big bench presses that are at the gym, right? The flat one kind of works this middle region. The incline one works the upper region, and that decline one works that a little bit more of that lower region. So when we checked her out, what we could find is I said, you know what, put your hands together like this and try to squeeze your hands toward each other. And when she was in this position with her hands about chest level, she could feel her chest. She's like, oh yeah, I feel these muscles right here, no problem. I said, all right, well, let's bring your hands down to about belly button level and then try to squeeze your hands together. When we did that, she lost it. She's like, ooh, I can feel that kind of like in a weird spot, like in my shoulder blade or in my upper back. I can feel that maybe just a little bit in my neck. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. That should be more still on the chest. So what we did is we came up just a little bit, so kind of halfway in between. So not quite at our start position and not quite at that bottom position, but kind of halfway. And I said, try it there. She's like, yeah, I can kind of feel it there. So in that position, she was kind of feeling that little bit of like that light just barely flickering on, but there were still some loose wires there, right? So I said, you know what, instead of even at that halfway, come up just another inch or two. And right there, she could feel chest again. So again, it's still lower than her normal spot up here, but in this position, she was still able to get chest. So I said, all right, we need to start right there and do 6 sets of 6-second contractions in that little, downward position. The goal over time, like maybe over a week or two, is to get to the point where she still feels chest down here. But today, she couldn't do it, okay? So we had to work here, and then over the week, I want her to eventually get to the point where she can still feel chest down here without the compensation of using her back muscles. So effectively, we also went up, right? We started here and I said, all right, we'll go up to about forehead level. Went up here, couldn't feel her chest, okay? She was feeling more shoulders, more back of the neck issues up here. And I said, well, it's because you're compensating with those muscles rather than engaging these top ones. So I said, bring your hands down. So again, this was her start position where she could feel it. I said, come up just a little bit. So we came up right there, she could still feel it. If we went here, she lost it. So we had to kind of find that sweet spot where she's trying to contract that muscle and stay and, allow it to stay, contracted. So that was one of her first exercises, basically just giving her this downward, kind of slightly down position and a slightly up position, but still trying to feel the chest muscle just contract in those two different positions. The next exercise that we really were looking at was checking out this big muscle here on the side of your neck. It's called your SCM. It stands for sternocleidomastoid. Basically lists the origin points of the muscle. Sterno is your sternum, so it attaches here to your sternum. Cleido is clavicle, attaches to the clavicle. Mastoid is this little bump kind of right behind the back of your ear, okay? So that's your SCM, sternocleidomastoid, okay? So that's this big muscle right here. You can see it if you really kind of flex your head forward, but also if I turn my head to the right, you'll see my left SCM just kind of pop out, right? So it's flexing. So my left SCM helps turn my head to the right. My right SCM turns my head to the left. It helps, right? It's one of the muscles that turn it that way. But its other action is to actually fold my head forward like this. So a lot of times if I have some people that have some neck issues, I find, again, not for everyone, but in many cases, I find this a lot with snowboarders. They've got a little bit of that kind of like backward fall. They hit the back edge and they fall backwards. So those muscles can shut down. I find that a lot also with some people that are trying to do a lot of different push-ups or a lot of different sit-ups and front ab exercises. So it's important to kind of link this together and find out that you have a fascial line that basically goes here from the front of the neck down through the chest and this little sternalis muscle that's here, and then down all the way into your abs, all the way down into the top of your pubic bone. So this line helps flex your entire body forward. So everything here on this front side is contracted when I go forward. And this kind of looks like a crunch position, right? But this can also be affected by doing a lot of push-ups or chest presses, right? Because you're flexing one of the bigger muscles here, okay? It could just be ab work. It could also be some neck issues from falling like on a snowboard or something too. So anyway, to kind of address or trying to flex or get these muscles to turn back on, she noticed that when she turned her head to one direction and we tried to kind of tip her head forward, that gave her a lot of back of the neck tightness. And again, we don't want that. We want these front muscles to feel like they're flexing, like they're engaging. So what I had her do was I just had her turn her head to the side, and then I had her tip her head forward, and then this finger right here is basically the line of force. So I'm trying to tip my head kind of forward while keeping my head turned to the right. And as I do that, you can see this muscle right here is flexing, okay? So again, I turn my head to the right, I tip it forward while keeping my nose pointed that direction, and I'm trying to tip my head forward, feeling this front SCM on my left neck engage. So again, I'm doing that 6 sets of 6 on this side, and I can do the same thing on the other side, right? So I'm just turning my head to the left, and you'll see that right SCM start to flex, but to continue to flex it, I'm gonna tip my head forward, and again, my finger is kind of the line of force. Okay, you can put your whole hand against the side of your head, but you're trying to basically tip your forehead kind of down and forward, kind of toward the camera in this orientation. So again, when I show you with my hand, so what I'm doing is I'm first kind of turning my head to the side, and then from there, I'm trying to tip my head kind of forward like this. So again, that's how I kind of flex this muscle, is I'm turning my head, and then I'm tipping forward, but I'm giving it some resistance for this isometric by holding or bracing the side of my forehead with this hand, okay? So again, doing that for about 6 sets and holding each contraction for 6 seconds each, that should help. And what we noticed with my client is that she did achieve some better neck mobility, and some of that tightness and stuff went away from the back of her head. And she could really move her head a lot more freely. She wasn't getting that same kind of like the tingles and stuff down the back of her arm. So hopefully that helps a little bit, but again, just working on some of the different chest fibers and then working on a couple of these front neck muscles that are in this front kind of fascial line in your body. So again, if you have some issues from snowboarding, obviously get checked out by a doc first, make sure there's nothing more serious. But if it's just a muscle issue, these are some things that could potentially help you out.